Hey there. You're looking kind of cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon. Let's have some fun. The sun had baked the dampness into a crisp, waiting to be broken underfoot, and I could hardly wait for the moment we were outside. The thought of feeling the curls dancing against my face made my stomach flutter. At first, it had felt strange, even frightening to be dressed like this, but after a couple of hours, I found myself loving it. The way the fabric rested against my skin, the subtle sway of my skirt. By the time we reached the picnic benches, I was parched, my throat dry from excitement and anticipation. Mom stopped me just as I was about to sit down. "Danielle, smooth out your skirt," she said sharply. "Yes, Mother," I muttered, feeling the flutter of my curls against my neck. "Cokes and hot dogs for all of us, John," Mom called to Dad. "Danielle, you can have some of my drink," she added, glancing at me. "Geez, Mom, can't I have my own Coke?" I asked, upset, wanting some independence. "You'll have to use the girls' restroom. Legs together, dear," she said, her tone clipped. "Yes, Mother," I answered, trying to sound obedient, trying to fit the role I'd been thrown into. We began to give Dad our food orders, but he stopped us, holding up his hand. "Hold it, everyone. Come and order your own," he said, smiling. I ordered a hot dog with everything, with fries on the side. When I sat down, I realized the man at the counter had been the first person I'd spoken to as a girl, and he hadn't given me a second glance. I felt invisible, yet somehow spectacular. My hunger hit me like a wave. Sue bent over, slurping her cup dry, the ice clinking and melting as she drank, and I felt like a desert wanderer with an empty canteen, watching everyone else drink with abandon. Dad had to intervene. "Susan, we've had enough. Your brother's a better behaved girl than you," he said, and I fought the urge to laugh and curse at the same time. "I'll take Danielle to the bathroom," Debbie volunteered, relief evident in her tone. "Thank God," Mom replied. "That won't be necessary. Eat slowly, Danielle, little bites, dear." Mom was relentless, lecturing me on posture, manners, and the weight of being ladylike, and I realized I had to listen. I didn't understand why I had to behave differently when my sisters, and most other girls around us, didn't seem to follow these rules. My gaze drifted to the pretty girls on the benches nearby, noticing their ease, their confidence. Sue chimed in with a warning. "Don't look at the girls like you were a boy," she said, and Deb added, "But don't look at the boys like you were a girl." A giggle escaped from somewhere, and then everyone laughed except me, leaving me to wonder if my awkwardness was entertaining to them. After lunch, Mom guided me by the shoulders to check if my hair was dry. I tried to move with a bit of rebellion, but she had other plans. She meticulously removed the rollers, unwinding each curl, spreading them apart with precision. "Everyone will think my little girl is very popular and wants to look really cute for a special boyfriend," she announced. I held up the round mirror Mom had brought, mesmerized by the cascade of curls bouncing around my face, shimmering in the sunlight. I wanted to touch them, to feel their magic, but Mom stopped me, warning that I would ruin the style. I couldn't resist sneaking glances, imagining the thrill someone would feel touching these perfect spring-like curls. Then, unexpectedly, Susan jumped up from the bench. "There's Jack and Tim from school," she cried, waving her arms frantically as she dashed toward them without asking permission. I watched as she talked and laughed with them, and even Dad looked eager to see the interaction. One of the guys got Sue to turn around, and she started walking back toward us. Dad motioned for them to come over, and my heart sank. I wasn't ready for introductions. I barely lifted my head to offer a faint smile and a timid wave. "Danielle is shy," Debbie whispered, and I felt my cheeks heat up. Mom calmly explained to the boys, "Danielle is a very good student and hasn't been interested in dating until recently." I peeked at the boys, both grinning as if they had just discovered a secret treasure. Dad gave them a gentle shove toward the exit, and Mom and my sisters giggled, leaving me alone with a swirl of confusion and relief. I wondered if girls felt the same nervous thrill when meeting handsome boys for the first time. As we moved through the zoo, Mom kept her eyes on me, pointing out how girls walked, how they moved their hands and bodies. She nudged my shoulder, correcting my posture, my swing, my gait. "Danielle, look, wave back," she said, pointing to Susan's friends across the path. I stiffened but obeyed, lifting my arm in a tentative wave, then higher, wiggling my fingers with a nervous smile. By the end of the day, I felt more exhausted than I had after a real safari. Every sense on high alert, every curl, every sway, every glance carefully measured. By the time we got home, it was after 7, and we had stopped for chicken takeout. I collapsed onto the sofa, only to be immediately reminded that a proper girl didn't just plop down. I straightened, feeling the weight of the day pressing on me. Sue led me upstairs to remove my makeup, slipping a headband over my hair and guiding me with care. I tried to resist, feeling exposed in my bra and undergarments, but Mom had promised new ones, so I complied. Sue ran off to her room after securing my hair under a hairnet. I carefully folded her clothes and placed them neatly on my dresser, savoring the tiny sense of order I could control in this whirlwind of femininity. Later, a knock on my door startled me. Mom's voice floated in, telling me that Tim had asked about me, complimenting my appearance and even suggesting a double date. My mind froze. Did he really mean me as Danielle? The words repeated in my head over and over as I lay in bed, every sensation alive, the coolness of the hairnet, the smoothness of face cream, the softness of panties, all reinforcing the strange, thrilling reality that I had been Danielle all day, and it had been incredible. Sleep eluded me at first, my mind a whirlwind replaying every moment of the day with vivid intensity, each memory layered with sensations that seemed impossibly real. The feel of my hair curling and bouncing against my neck, the faint, lingering scent of face cream that Mom had carefully applied, the smoothness of the hairnet pressed against my scalp, and the warmth of the blouse and skirt that now felt like a second skin. All of it pressed on my senses, as if I were living it again in slow motion. I could almost hear the distant laughter of my sisters, the subtle murmur of Dad's voice, even the rustle of leaves and distant animal sounds at the zoo echoing in my ears. I kept picturing myself walking, each step measured and deliberate, swaying my hips just so, practicing the wave Mom had insisted I perfect. I could see my reflection in my mind's eye, curls spilling like liquid sunlight across my forehead and cheeks, and my pulse quickened as I remembered Tim's eyes, the faint grin that had lingered just a moment too long, and how absurdly thrilling it had been to imagine that he saw me, Danielle, not as a boy in disguise, but as a girl who could capture attention effortlessly without even trying. I rolled onto my side, curling slightly against the covers, and my fingers unconsciously brushed at the pillow, imagining the soft spring of curls against my cheek, replaying the small victories of the day like a secret I couldn't share with anyone yet. The memory of dinner, the rush of food and smells, and Mom's unending instructions on posture and manners ran together into a collage of sensory experiences that left me dizzy with amusement and anxiety at the same time. I remembered plucking at the corners of my skirt, adjusting it as she had taught, and the way my legs had pressed together, a gesture that now felt both unnatural and exhilarating. A reminder that every movement mattered, that every glance from anyone in the world could reveal or conceal the secret of my identity. Debbie's quiet whispers, Susan's relentless teasing, and Dad's indulgent smiles created a kind of stage where I was both performer and audience, caught in a performance that was thrilling in its intensity, yet terrifying in its stakes. I pictured Mom's hands, deftly separating curls, rolling and unrolling them until each coil fell perfectly into place, and I could feel a shiver of delight remembering the light tug as the strands were carefully pulled and set, the sunlight catching each one, making them glisten like spun gold. That sensation, so intimate and yet public in its awareness, had left me simultaneously embarrassed and euphoric, a feeling that lingered in my chest as I pulled the covers tighter around me. I drifted further into memory, recalling the zoo, the way Mom had guided me through the crowds, pointing out subtle gestures and movements of other girls, making me notice how their arms swung, how their shoulders tilted, and how their voices modulated effortlessly in conversation. Each correction from Mom, every gentle nudge or instruction, had been like a brushstroke, painting a new version of me, and I realized, with a mix of disbelief and delight, that I had been transforming, not just in appearance, but in posture, in confidence, in the way I carried myself. When she had pointed out Susan's friends across the path and insisted that I wave, I had stiffened initially, every nerve alert, heart hammering in my chest, but as I raised my arm and forced a smile, feeling my fingers wiggle in the sunlight, I had sensed something exhilarating, a taste of the power of attention, the thrill of being seen as someone entirely different, someone admired. The experience, small as it might have seemed in the moment, had left an impression that burned brightly in my memory, a mixture of fear and fascination, of uncertainty and undeniable joy. Even the interactions with Sue's friends, Jack and Tim, replayed over and over with a strange vibrancy, like scenes from a dream I hadn't expected to live. Tim's words, his compliment, and the very idea that he had seen me as Danielle, as someone pretty, felt like a revelation that pulled me into a new orbit of self-perception. The memory made my stomach flutter, a cocktail of embarrassment, excitement, and disbelief, and I couldn't stop picturing my own tentative smile, my faint wave, and the way my heart had surged with a secret thrill as Mom relayed his words to me later. I thought about the way I had spoken, the careful modulation Mom had instructed, the slow rise and fall of my voice that had made me sound natural, convincing, like someone born into this identity rather than forced into it. I marveled at how strange it was to feel completely hidden in plain sight, to sense the eyes of others without revealing myself, to navigate a world that seemed suddenly layered with secret possibilities and hidden meanings. The day's lessons in femininity, in subtle gestures, in the cadence of a girl's walk and sway had etched themselves into me, and I realized how addictive it had become. I could feel the imprint of every motion, every taut posture, every careful smile in the mirror, as though my body remembered it even when my mind was otherwise occupied. The sensation of curls brushing my cheeks, the faint tickle at my collarbone, the smooth glide of fabric across my legs, all of it coalesced into a feeling of self-awareness that was utterly new, completely consuming, and impossibly exciting. I pictured the final moments at home, the ritual of removing makeup, the delicate care with which Sue had helped me untangle and smooth the last strands of hair, the secure feeling of the hairnet holding everything in place, and I felt a shiver of both comfort and longing. Comfort in the safety of the private space, longing for the thrill and attention of the public world where my transformation had been witnessed. As the night deepened, the shadows in my room lengthened and softened, and I felt the surreal duality of who I was, the boy I had been, the girl I had become, and the thrilling liminal space in between. I clutched the sheets closer, imagining the way my hair had shone, the way my hands had moved just so, the way my voice had floated in careful waves when speaking, and I understood that each detail, each seemingly trivial gesture, had been a key to the experience that now clung to me like a second skin. Mom's words, Tim's compliment, the soft laughter of my sisters, Debbie's giggles, Susan's nudges, all combined into a complex symphony of identity and performance, of exhilaration and nervousness, of thrill and quiet pride. I could feel it all coursing through me, a pulse of discovery that left me breathless, heart racing, mind spinning with questions I wasn't yet ready to answer. Finally, my eyelids grew heavy, weighted with the exhaustion of a day lived in heightened awareness, a day in which every detail had mattered, every glance had been a test, every motion a statement. I thought of Danielle, the character I had inhabited so completely, and felt an unexpected tenderness for her, for the courage it had taken to move through the world under such scrutiny. Every curl, every sway, every carefully measured gesture had become part of me now, inseparable from the nervous exhilaration that had defined the day. I imagined lying there, curled beneath the covers, letting the experiences wash over me one last time, letting the memory of the zoo, the picnic, the teasing and laughter, and even the double-date invitation seep into my consciousness until it became a part of who I was. The room grew quiet except for the faint hum of night outside, and my thoughts softened into a gentle, lingering echo of the day's adventures. The thrill of attention, the sensation of being seen and yet hidden, the beauty and complexity of transformation, all of it coalesced into a vivid, intoxicating memory that would stay with me far beyond this single day. I let out a slow breath, feeling the warmth of the sheets, the faint tickle of curls at my temple, the soft weight of the hairnet against my scalp, and finally, with a mind still alive with sensation and a heart still racing from moments both terrifying and exhilarating, I drifted into a deep, untroubled sleep Danielle fully realized in every sense. And yet, somewhere in the quiet night, a part of me already wondering when the next adventure would come, and what it would feel like to step into this impossible, wonderful world again,